Good morning, folks. This is old Tumbleweed coming to you from downtown Gibsonton, Showtown, USA. Thank you so much for you people who wrote me, and especially my good friend up in Marianna, Florida, Greg Bird. What a gentleman. This, you guys know how I got up there. I explained to you how I got up there and why I went up there. But this here story is going to be kind of bittersweet because it's been 65 years since I was up there. It's a long time. And the word Marianna, I couldn't say the word for 50 years, 60 years. And every time I went down Interstate 10 across east and west, I looked over at that water tower standing there, and I kind of cringed as I went through. I didn't stop because it's just too painful to stop. Now, the story I'm going to tell you is a true story. The state of Florida run that school. Now, the town itself was a small part in the school. And we've got evidence of this. We've got a lot of background. Anybody who wants to know more about the reform school, we got a group called the White House Boys. And it was founded about 8, 10, 12 years ago. I think it was 2008 we started the group. And we had 350 men that were in the school back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and early 70s. And it was funny because when we all got together, we used to have monthly meetings and stuff, and we discussed different things that happened to us when we was in the reform school. So when I say the word Marianna, that's the town, but it really, I don't know if the school is in the city limits or not of the town of Marianna. And there was a few people that was involved that lived in the town that did horrible things. And it's facts, it's true, it's been researched. And by the way, the state of Florida, we had a lawsuit against the state of Florida where it was a class action lawsuit. Now there was about 350 of us, colored boys and white boys. We all got together and we sued the state of Florida. And we had we thought was the best lawyers that we could buy. Man, they come on to us. We had meetings. They promised us the world. We signed papers and documents and took our stories, and they couldn't believe it. Oh no, that didn't happen to you guys. You guys are all lying. This couldn't happen. But all these men, 350 of us, had got together after all these years and told the same stories. They said, well, we're going to pick a small group of men, and we're going to randomly pick you out of all these people, and we're going to give you guys a lie detector test, and we're going to prove that this can't be. You guys are, you're all cahoots, and you have these meetings, and you say this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me. Well, guess what? I was one of the men that was selected to take a lie detector test, paid for by the state of Florida, at my expense, to go to Marianna, go to the motel by myself, eat. They didn't give us a dime, but they did pay for the test. Well, I took the test, and I passed with flying colors. I mean, he said, you're 100% true. About a month went by, and they said, you know what, we're going to give you this test again, because we're going to see if maybe we'll catch you in a lie. Well, guess what, folks? I took the test again, and I passed with flying colors. Not only did I take it, there was about 15 of us, I think, took the test. And every one of us passed with flying colors. Well, Anyway, to make a long story short, we was asked to come to the Capitol building with the Speaker of the House. I think the governor was sitting up there, and they said, well, boys, you know, we believe you all, but there's nothing we can do about it. The statute of limitations is gone. It's over with. So what happened to you when you was 13, 14, 15 years old is no longer a concern of the state. But we'll shake your hand and we'll say we're sorry. And you boys just go home and cry your nights away. Well, that's what a lot of them did. A lot of them did that. A lot of them went to their grave waiting for the state of Florida to give them something. They did. They gave us an apology. We are sorry that we treated you like we did. But that was 50, 60, 70 years ago. Forget it, boys. Well, I forgot it for 60 years. And when it came back to me, the memories were so strong that I bawl every now and then when I think about it. I actually cry. But the stories that I'm going to tell you is terrible. I know from the last video I told you when we got to Marietta, we'd been driving from Sarasota all day, and we got to the campus. It was late in the evening, and I was really surprised how pretty it was and how nice it was, and how the boys was all marching. They had white shirts and blue jeans on, and they was all walking into column of two. Boy, I said, wow, this is going to be a great place. Well, let me tell you what happens up there. They have a place called the White House. It's an old ice cream factory. It sits right next to the kitchen. Now, it's a cement building, not block, but building about maybe, I never did measure the walls, but they're pretty thick. And up in the top of this one particular little room is a big fan. Now, when I got there, they put me in a cottage, which was a cottage, a place that people stay. We had, and they turned the light. They never slept. You never slept with the lights off. You slept with the lights on all the time. No, everything was daylight. They took all your clothes, locked them in a locker, and give you a white gown to wear, a white pullover gown. No shoes, and they put you in this big dormitory, and I used to lay there at night and listen to the boys crying. Mama, Daddy is crying, you know. Well, we had a night watchman used to come around. There was about 12, I think it was 12 cottages up there. And the night watchman would come around, and they had a big clock. You know, the old time watchmen had them big clocks they had to turn, I guess, to protect themselves so they wasn't sleeping on a job. They had to show where they was at. But if you was caught with your head under your blanket pull up over your head, he would come along and hit you with that clock. So after a few times of being hit in the head, you didn't do that no more. You slept outside. I mean, put your head outside. So they would get you up in the middle of the night and bring you out there and put you on a line. Well, you know what a tile floor is. Well, the tile line was straight, and they would put your foot on the line, put your toes on the line, 2, 3 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And they would come along, and if your toe was off that line just a 1/4 inch, he would stomp on it. Now, this was a cottage father. Each cottage had a cottage father, which was a man who lived there at the cottage with his family. They either lived upstairs, or I guess some of them had basements. I'm not sure which one. He'd come along, and they just loved to torture us kids, us boys. Now, remember now, these boys were 9, 10, 11. They was babies. I was 13. So anyway, they would come in and they would stomp on your toe. Stomp on your toe. They wanted to make it bleed. They hit it. So you learn how to keep your toe back. Okay? Well, the brutality that went on in this place is horrible. Now, they say the statute of limitation is gone on rape. You can't, it's gone. I mean, it's too long. But let me tell you something, folks. The statute of limitation on murder never goes away. That's right. That's right. Hear what I said. Murder. Now, these men that live there on the campus, I'm assuming they all had houses on this campus. But maybe they lived in town. I don't know. But I know, but the one was really bad. And the man is still alive today. Let me give you some names. No, I'm going to tell it like it is. Now, we had Curry, which was a psychiatrist that brought you up there and interviewed you when you got there. Well, he was a sexual predator. He asked you sexual questions. Now, if you answered these questions right, which I didn't know what to answer. I was 13 years old. I had never heard of the questions that he asked me. So guess what? I just came from a jailhouse, Sarasota, Florida, with 3 grown men, and I was 13 years old. Yes, that's right. The state of Florida did that to me. Now I'm at this school, and I've only been here 2 days. And they took me and put me in that room with that psychiatrist called Curry. Well, I'm not going to go into the details of what happened to me because it's sort of painful, even after all these years. But this whole story is painful, folks. It's hard to even think about all them years because it left me. But as of this group that we got together with over the past several years, it brought all this back. Yes, I've spent some crying nights over it since then. Well, anyway, so there was Curry, and he was a beater. There was Hatton. I'm not sure what his first name was. There was Hatton, and he was a beater. And there was Zitch. Zitch was a administrator, and he got transferred down to Okeechobee in '59 when they opened up the school in Okeechobee down there. Well, of course, he took the strap with him. The strap was made in Mariana shoe shop. Now, this strap that they used to beat you with was 4 inches wide, about 30 inches long, and as thick as a table knife handle. That's right. They would put you in this room. Now, this is a room I told you called the ice cream factory, which was called the White House because it was painted white. Now, they put me in this kitchen washing dishes. Now, right in front of me was this big window. Now, I was washing dishes for 2.5 years. I washed a lot of dishes. So today, when I get done eating my supper, I wash the dishes because I've got a lot of experience. I've washed the dishes my whole life. We had 365 boys on our side, which was called the number 1 side, which was the white side, and there was roughly 450 to 500 colored boys on the other side. Well, this story can go on because this is terrible. This whole incident happened in my life. No boy should ever experience it. But when you first get there, they give you a grade. It's like being a sergeant or a corporal or whatever. Well, anyway, when you first go there, your grade is a grub. That's right. And then, so no matter what you do, no matter how you handle this here, you're a grub. And you can't go no lower. You can't go any lower than a grub. Now, when you're there for 2 or 3 months and you do good things, you might pull up to a explorer, I think it was. And then after that, you went up to a pioneer. And then after that, you went up to an ace. Now, once you got to an ace, then you pretty well had tickets to go home. But to get to be an ace, you had to be, and I hope you guys are watching, you had to be really crooked. You had to be on their side. Now, folks, let me tell you something. When you first went there, you was a grub. Can't get no lower than that. So what they did was, they would, for whatever reason they could find, they would, each place, the kitchen or the workplace, which was the kitchen for me, the school, the cottage, if you got rode up for putting your toe off that line, you got rode up. Now, if you got rode up, they would say, you're going down, boy. What do you mean you're going down? That was the determination that they used. I'm going down, which meant you're going down to the White House. They're going to take you down there and beat you because you got your toe off that line. Or because you put your blanket over your head twice or 3 times. They write you up. Or you're walking to wherever you're going. We always walked in a column of 2s. And if you wasn't in step with your buddy over there, you got rode up. Where'd you go? You're going to the White House. You're going down. Now, some of these boys, like I said, was 10, 11, 12 years old. Now, when I tell you you're going down, let me tell you about this White House. It was the most horriblest place in the world. It was brutal. And these men, such as Tidwell and Curry and Zitch, and guess what? There was one more. He was a one-armed man. His name was Troy Tidwell. He was the worst. He had more power in that one arm than most men had in 2. But he loved doing what he done. He loved it. Now, those of you who know Tidwell, which is still alive, I am told today, and in a nursing home, will not believe me. Oh, he's such a nice guy, a Christian man. But as God my witness, he was horrible. He was as bad as any guard in the concentration camp at Auschwitz, Germany. Just as bad, just as mean. And he never got caught. They never put him in jail. But he done more harm on boys that was 12 and 13. Now, when I told you earlier about murder, folks, let me tell you, I was in this kitchen for 2.5 years. And right in front of my sink that I had was a great big window. And 200 feet outside that window was the White House. So I got to see a lot of stuff. I seen a lot of comings and goings. Now, I seen them bring them in cattle trucks from the number 2 side, black boys, being brought over there 4, 5, 6, 10 at a time. They lined them up. They brought them in here. And they put them in one door and they brought them out the other. Well, I did. I went down a lot of times. They beat me for stuff like talking in line. Because remember now, you couldn't get a grade when you was a grub. And if you doesn't matter what you did, if you got a grade, you're going to the White House. Now, people like Troy Tidwell love to beat young boys. Now, those of you who can punch this up on a computer, and they brought him up against the state of Florida, and he lied. Oh, he said, I never beat them boys. Oh, we might have paddled them. But let me tell you, folks, he would beat you until you bled. And when he got done with your butt, he would beat you on your back of your legs. And then he would move up the back of your legs to your back. And he would beat you. Well, he ruined my back. A boy 13, 14 growing up in life, your bones are not quite developed yet. And they beat you with this strap. Now, the reason they beat you is because when you go in there, you had to lay on this this cot, army cot, and it had a railing up top of it. You guys probably see it your whole life. There was a bloody mattress and a bloody pillow, and the mattress was full of puke and piss and poop from the boys pissing their pants, biting their lips, and it stunk real bad. And it had a great big fan up top, and they turned the fan on. They turned that fan on because they didn't want the people outside to hear the screams of these poor boys that was being beat. Just beat. They just beat him, and they beat you and beat you and beat you. And why they beat you so much is because if you took it, you usually get about 20 licks. If you are strong enough to do it, if you are strong enough to lay there and they let, but then if you start screaming, oh my God, Mama, Daddy, God, Jesus, they would beat you more. And the more they beat you, the more they loved it. It was bred into them, like Curry and Tidwell. It was horrible. It was horrible. They loved it. They got their jollies off by beating these people, these young boys. Well, like I said, I worked in the kitchen, and I seen them coming. I used the word murder a while ago because I seen them murder a young boy. Now, I've been interviewed with this many times, so it's public record. You can go online and look it up. But I'll tell the story. There was a little boy, he was 10 years old. I don't know what his name was. I'm going to call him Billy or Johnny or whatever. Now, they didn't call us by our first names because they call us Johnson or Wilson or Thompson, whatever they want. But they never use the word Bill, Tom, Dick, or Harry. They never use that. But this little boy, for some reason, his name was Billy or Johnny, some little name. I don't know. Anyway, he had, those of you can remember the disease called infantigo. Infantigo was a sore he had on his lip right here. And they didn't cure it. They didn't do nothing for it. And he licked his lip. He just kept licking it and licking it and licking it. Well, he came through the kitchen line. Back then we had tables that we set around. I think in 59 they switched it over to cafeteria style. But in 58, we still had tables where about, I think, 8 or 10 boys sat at the table. And then we had a table boy that used to run and get our food for us. Well, the boys started picking on this little boy. Quit licking your lips at the dinner table. And finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He just kind of said something. And the instructor, which was the kitchen manager, which was Hatton, I believe it was R.J. Hatton, but I'm not sure about the first. But his name was Hatton, because we had to call him Mr. Hatton. Wow. He come over here and wrote that little boy up. Well, guess what? He was a grub. After dinner, they sent an office boy to his place where he was in school, and it was Mr. Hatton's. Wait a minute, I got that wrong. Mr. Enfield was the instructor at the kitchen. It was Enfield. Hatton was the administrator of the school, I think, and he was. But when you seen Hatton's boy coming to get you, you know you're in trouble. You know you're going down. So they come and got him, and I'm washing dishes. And they took him around to this White House. Now, usually they had 2 or 3 boys they took down, but this time they only had one. That poor little boy that was 10 years old. I will go to my grave remembering this day. It was the one-armed man that was there. He took him in the front of the door, and they beat him. I couldn't hear it. I just assumed he was, being beat. They beat him. They beat him. They beat him. The poor little boy probably never shut up. He probably started screaming. And like I told you before, the more you screamed, the more they beat you. The more they beat you. The more they beat you. Well, they killed him. They murdered him. They beat him to death. Now, whether or not he died from a heart attack or he pooped himself to death, I don't know. The reason I know he died is because the one-armed man left. No little boy. About 30 minutes come by. I'm seeing this now. I'm in the kitchen right after lunch, and I'm washing dishes. I noticed the little boy didn't come out. Well, Troy Tidwell left. About 30 minutes went by, and a state car pulled up. Now, them old state cars was like 51 Fords. They was painted army green. So a state car pulls up. Hatton jumps out of the car. Tidwell jumps out of the car, and they carried that little boy out. He was limp. Now, what do you think happened? They beat him to death. They put him in the back of the car and they drove away. Now, this is a story that I've told several law enforcement officers, but yet not one of them wants to prosecute that old man for murder. Now, folks, like I said, this was a horrible place. A lot of bad things went down. This lady that went up there a few years ago and they found all them burial sites. They dug them up. They found that they had bullet holes in them. One little boy they found had a marble in his pocket. Yes, he had one little marble. His total possession in life was just one little marble. And they found that body in that shallow grave with the marble in his pocket. Yeah, but they said it was like 55 or so, but there was probably over 100 of them. But there was bodies buried all over that campus. There was cemeteries that was plowed over, and how many of them went on the black side, the number 2 side, ground up and put in them fields for fertilizer. The state of Florida did a horrible thing. Now, the town of Marianna was involved in it a little bit. You know, this was a labor camp. This was labor. They got these boys off the streets from all over the state of Florida, all the way down to Key West, to Miami. This was before 59, because in 59 they opened up the one down in Okeechobee, and all the ones from, I think, Venice south went to Okeechobee, maybe even Sarasota south. But I went there in 1958, which was the only one. So we had boys all over the state. Now, these boys was put there for truancy, maybe stealing an orange off a neighbor's tree. No courts. The sheriff was the boss. If he picked you up, and I think that he might have got a kickback from the state, maybe even Jackson County. That's right, Jackson County, because they benefited from this school. Now, they had the black boys on the one side do all of the farm work, the chicken farming, the eggs, the milking the cows, the pig farming, the slaughterhouse. On our side, we had, I'm not sure where the brick factory was, but they had a brick factory that they made tens of thousands of bricks that they put on railroad cars and shipped them out of the state. They had watermelons by the truckload. You don't think they ate that much watermelon. They sold the watermelons. So anyway, the rumor was that the people in Marianna, the city of Marianna, knew what was going on out there. Half of them did. Half of them didn't care, I guess. And it was a time we lived in. And rumors, and this is all facts that we've come up with in the last 10, 12 years, that if they caught a boy running away and they come to your house and he was scared to death and he was wanting his mom and he wanted to come home, they'd made a phone call and they got a half a beef for doing that. That's right, a half a beef, or $100. So see, you didn't have much of a chance if you ran away. You couldn't go nowhere. You because the whole town was against you. Now, I'd like to thank, though, the people of Marianna today, because it's a different place, and the older people are gone, and the people who run that school is gone, and I'm sure the town itself is a lot better place than what it was. And there's some fine people living in Marianna. And one of them is a friend of mine called Greg Bird. And he has really woke up my thoughts about Marianna. And now I can pretty well say the word Marianna without quenching or without having a tear come to my eyes because of him. So I'd like to throw a thanks out to you, Greg, if you're watching. And I hope that you folks that don't look at this video is liking it. And you can go on there and you can subscribe to it, or you can push the like button. And this is old Tumbleweed with another true story in downtown Gibsonton, Showtown, USA. So long.